Alex Marlow here, Editor-in-Chief of Breitbart News, and we also have James Lindsay, who is one of the most deepest thinkers on the wokification of America. James, I've asked you this before, but it's just stunning how you are not a person of the right, per se, and you become like a figurehead in the right-of-center movement. And I know that a lot of your colleagues who agree with you on things, on how the left has kind of hijacked our culture and it's not going well, why are you the one who keeps showing up at events like this, at Turning Point where we're at today, and you get this wonderful welcome? There are people who are really deeply interested in what you have to say and what you're thinking, and it just seems like a lonely game sometimes.
It can be. I mean, I'm trying to speak the truth. And if there's an audience that wants to hear it, I want to be there. And this is an audience that wants to hear the truth, so it's always supportive, it's always a positive environment, and I'm glad to be here.
One thing that I heard you talk about recently that I thought is really under-discussed is the role of male role models in our culture.
Oh, yeah.
Is really diminished.
Yeah.
And you point something out in a recent talk I heard you give, where you're talking about how our society is culturally pushing out male role models as creepers or people who are, if they want to participate in young people's lives and they're weird. And this is going to have really deleterious downstream effects, things we might not even be seeing now. I was hoping to expand on that a little bit.
Well, I mean, you really have hit the point already, but it's simple. There should be male role models, there should be female role models in people's lives. They have to see what these models look like. And when you don't have men that can act as men, and I don't mean this alpha crap all over the internet, like this exaggeration, this pastiche of masculinity, but I mean actual men doing what they're supposed to do, you know, taking responsibility, showing what it means to be masculine, to be real, to be present, to be responsible, and to work with young people and to model that in their lives. You're going to have young people who don't understand that dimension of life and reality. And so it's just crucial that we start nourishing that again. We start trying to overcome these narratives that have boxed men out, or that have led men to be treated like as buffoons, like, you know, Homer Simpson or Family Guy or whatever, but also as creepers, that if it's a male, it wants to be a role model. And so we have this vacuum of male role models, and what do we have now? We have drag queens filling in the role. We have men pretending to be women so they can be role models or groomers for kids. It's a problem.
And the male archetype now in our pop culture is the guy in the Carl's Jr. commercial putting the whole avocado into the blender. I got to tell you, my wife's a great cook, but I'm the guacamole maker in our family. It's I know how to make a damn good guacamole.
Yeah.
Don't skimp on the cumin. Any of you who are watching at home, that's the main thing that people miss. But it just, how do we let this happen? It's just so insulting and sexist, like completely sexist, and we just embrace this as a culture.
I mean, it's a wonderful question how we let this happen. It was a slow march to not being able to say no. Every time a man spoke up or did something, they could point to an example of something that was too extreme, compare him to something that's more extreme, and say, you can't be like that. And they've slowly walked it back and walked it back and walked it back, so that we're now in this situation, 40, 50 years down the line, where we don't know what healthy masculinity, healthy masculine role models. The idea that a man can make guacamole or that knows how to work on avocado, that has a pit in it and all this, like this becomes this caricature that fills in the void when you've just kind of pushed and pushed and pushed. But it's been a slow walk where people who've said no have been rebuked for saying no, and eventually people get tired of it and just kind of give in.
But they do this all the time, and I see this whenever there's a photo of a conservative that pops up on social media. They always try to go, oh, this person's creepy, this person's weird, and it makes you not want to pop your head up and be out there. And this is, so you have to have a strong stomach for this, which you understand a lot of people do, a lot of people don't know another way. But I do think we're missing out on a lot of people participating in American life who don't want to deal with that headache.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I get called everything in the book, basically, accused of literally everything that you can imagine. And it wears on you, and it is hard. But it also, you can risk living, or you can just decide not to live, right?
Yes.
And that's what people have got to remember, is that we're at a moment where we're risking being able to live. We're risking our future freedom.
Right.
And so if we don't start to live and live reasonably but unapologetically for being, reasonable in who we are, then we're going to cede our liberties, we're going to cede our personality, we're going to give away pieces of our soul to something that doesn't want us to resist it.
So we've talked about the wokification of the culture in the past. We had a big interview at this event last year. Are we going the right direction or the wrong direction?
The movement's gaining steam. It's a little scattered after the midterm elections. I won't kid. We shouldn't dodge that. It's trying to find a new direction. There are people that are picking new paths, that some of which might be good and some of which are frightening me. I think that there are some traps that the right wing is trying to get too vigorously almost reactionary.
Yes, I agree with you.
As opposed to remembering that what we are is Americans. And so what matters is the Bill of Rights, which is based off of the Declaration of Human Rights that's in the Declaration of Independence, which is, we have our inalienable rights granted by God, or however you want to see that if you don't believe in God, I guess, that are, life, liberty, and property, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And everything follows from there. Everybody always points Constitution, no, Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights and what is given to us in the Declaration upon which that was built. That is what we must be defending. And if you say, you know what, no, things are so bad, we're going to throw that out, and we're going to step into this space with something muscular and tough and masculine and pretend and falsely traditional and, whatever, then you're just actually giving away the core of what we need to preserve to an enemy that can't get that core unless we give it to them.
Yeah, and it also takes so much time to build that masculine foundation for your life. You can't just decide I'm going to lift weights that day and start a family that day and join a church group that day. That stuff takes a lot of commitment, and we need to allow things to gestate and people take time.
I mean, that's the stuff people used to do when they got divorced, right? Oh, I went to church, I took a karate class, I'm great now. I'm a man now for you, baby. It's fake.
Yeah.
No, it's got to be something real. But I am optimistic overall.
I am too, and I'm glad to hear you say that, because you see something like what's happened with Disney over the last year, and you feel very disheartened that every time I turn on Disney for my kids, I might get Baymax, which I think was a trans character with a period, and it was just like for small children. But also you see their stock, and you can't help to feel like, okay, well, maybe people get it. Maybe people understand this is not the way forward. But I'm glad to hear you feel like it's on the positive side of things. So,
no, I think. How can you not feel that way with this kind of energy around you? 11,000 people almost. They said this year. The energy's crazy. They told me there were over 8,000 people for my presentation.
Wow,
that's incredible.
Yes,
there's a very quickly awakening movement. We talked about that a year ago. It's bigger. It's stronger. It's more informed. So we're stepping in the right direction.
The more informed part is what is really striking to me, is that I have on people like you, and I have Darren Beatty come by, and people who are trying not just to be conservative. You're not even trying to be conservative.
You're just trying to be me.
You're trying to be someone who brings serious ideas.
That's right.
Offered up to the public, and let them think what they think about it. Probably get a little more informed. Maybe with some challenges. We all learn together through this process. I'm very heartened by how the conservative movement does seem to crave that, and the left doesn't. But they're still winning elections, which is interesting, and we need to make that adjustment.
Yeah, we've got to figure out how to correct for these things, again, without throwing out the fundamental thing that makes our republic special. We have to solve this problem. We have to get creative to figure out how to get out of the trap they've set for us, so that we don't do it in a clumsy way that gives them a victory that looks like, we win, but we actually hand the victory to them. We don't want to seize defeat from the jaws of victory, in other words.
Okay, so people can find you a lot of places, and I want to get to all those, but you have a new book, and I'm reading it, so I want to have a longer discussion when I'm done reading it.
Okay.
But I want the audience to hear a little bit about it.
It's called The Marxification of Education. It exposes how a Brazilian Marxist that nobody's ever heard of, Paulo Freire, created a way of thinking about education that became called critical pedagogy. And critical pedagogy allows for Marxists to steal our education system from our society and our children. That theft of education is virtually complete, and so we have to be aware of it. We have to understand how it works. We have all these great parents groups. We have all these great people looking at education, trying to fight back, trying to save our kids, trying to save our schools. And if you don't know how they're stealing education, you can't stop them from stealing it. And so the book is supposed to give you the look behind the curtain to understand what they've actually done to transform education into literally what I say is brainwashing programs, modeled after the Maoist brainwashing programs in China in the 50s and 60s.
So, did you learn something really shocking while you were going through all this stuff, or was this all stuff in the back of your brain that you tried to summon for the book?
I mean, the most shocking thing is that it's unambiguous that what they're doing is religious instruction posing as non-religious instruction. And so we have a hidden First Amendment issue that's not being addressed that's enormous and important.
Yes.
That's the most shocking thing that I found digging into this.
Yeah, and again, you think about how all the work we're doing, are we moving fast enough? Because kids get older every year, and every time we wake up another group of people to understand the education system is broken, there's tens of millions who are in the system.
That's right.
Best case scenario, having their time wasted.
Right.
Like, that would be the best case.
That's right. And so it's so important. People often forget about education and how important education is as an issue. It's so important that we focus on education and get it back together as soon as possible.
Okay, so I know you guys have New Discourses, Sovereign Nations. Tell everyone where to find you online.
Yeah, so my website's New Discourses. That's newdiscourses.com. You can find me on social media at Conceptual James on currently every platform but Facebook. They permanently removed me the other day.
Oh, boy.
I'm back on Twitter, though.
Yes.
At least for the moment. We'll see how that
Congrats.
goes. Yeah, right. And then New Discourses, at New Discourses is the social media platform for the company.